Hey friends, welcome to Everything Wrong with Nikon Z6. So let's start at the beginning. The Nikon Z6 is actually pretty great for photography. I've already shot a wedding with it, and having an 85 1.4 stabilized is amazing. I love being able to add a bit more stabilization to some of my older lenses. I'm primarily a prime lens shooter, so having stabilization on those, it helps with lower light and that sort of thing. Autofocus is actually pretty good, but for filmmakers, the Nikon Z6 is not great. And I love that Nikon's like, oh, we've got these filmmaker kits. These are for filmmakers, and they send out filmmakers with these cameras. But I feel like those filmmakers are not allowed to say the things that they don't like with the Z6. So here I am to say it. First, let's talk about what's missing. And in order to talk about what's missing, I want to compare it with a 7-year-old Panasonic GH4. I have two of them. I bought them for $500 a piece, and they are great. If I could put my Nikon lenses and have them work natively with full frame and stabilization, they would be perfect. And that's what I was hoping for when I got the Z6, which was billed as this new foray into filmmaking and having these filmmaker options. Having the capability of doing RAW out of a camera like this is mind-blowing, and it's something that I've been waiting for a camera manufacturer to do. Now, you have to do it on an external like a Ninja V, which I have on order, but it's just not there yet, right? The issues with this camera are almost entirely firmware based. Now, comparing it with the GH4, here's what the GH4 has that this does not have. Shutter angle. Honestly, if you are flipping through different frame rates, it is a nightmare to have to go, okay, what's my frame rate? What's double that? What's the shutter speed? What's the closest to that they'll allow? Oh, okay, I'm trying to do 24p. Well, I have to do 1/50th of a second, so it's not entirely right. It should be 1/48. Okay, so I can't really tweak that and kind of get, like, being able to take my GH4 and go, oh, there's an LED light and there's flickering it, and I can just adjust that fine tune of shutter angle and knock out my flicker from an LED. It's a night and day difference, and being able to do that just like that, you will never go back. So Nikon, if you're listening, shutter angle. You can add it in firmware, and this would be an amazing filmmaker's camera. But let's keep going. What does the GH4 have from 2014? It has true 24p, not 23.98, cinematic 24p, 4K DCI, full cinema width, so you get a little bit more width on the image. You've got anamorphic D-squeeze, unlimited recording. I don't even mind if they wanted to do the 5GB chunks, but Nikon, seriously? 29 minutes cap? That is not okay in 2021. You need to know that. Everybody's embarrassed for you. Okay, external field monitor HDMI. My D750 has that. I plug it in and I can see all the settings on there. I can see my battery level. I can see whether it's recording. Even an external tally, like some kind of tally light, I don't know if this is recording from this end. How about an internal log recording? I have to plug in an external recorder in order to be able to record log. I want a flat profile. I don't want to just select flat and hope it's kind of flat. Like, I want a flat profile. And speaking of flat profile, yes, you're going to say, well, there's not enough bitrate for that. Of course, because there's not enough bitrate. 143 is not enough. Yes, some of these things can be solved by the Ninja V, by Atomos. But really, Nikon, You want me to buy something from another manufacturer in order to make your hardware decently good when all you gotta do is add a few settings for me? Like, I don't mind buying that for the ability to do RAW. I'm not sure what you want me to do with sending it in for a $200 upgrade when you could just put that into the camera to begin with. Seriously. You should have these built in, or you should have your own piece of hardware that plugs in, ideally through a special port. You've seen the Sony's little hot shoe port. If you had an external recorder that just clicked in, honestly, you would crush this market and nobody would be buying anything else. Just want to put that out there. So, Nikon. Most of these problems are firmware. Tomorrow, you could send out a firmware update that fixes most of these issues. I get it with like full DCI, you'd probably have to change the way that it's binning the pixels, but trust me, if you add shutter angle, true 24p, and unlimited recording, you would instantly move to the highest level, because even Sony's new FX3 doesn't have shutter angle, doesn't have DCI, doesn't have true 24p. That's a cinema camera, like cinema branded camera. Don't even get me started on that. But it does have internal log and other cinematic color spaces. So Nikon, internal log, internal 10-bit, you can totally do it. I've got a 1700 megabyte per second card. Give me that. So that's all of my issues. That's everything wrong with the Nikon Z6 and the Z6 Mark II and the Z7 Mark II. Everything in the Z line is missing that. So that's firmware. Now, this is my rant. With the Nikon Z line, here's the problem. You look at all of these lenses, they're the same basic lens design as the full frame SLR lens, all these 1.8 lenses, they're the same basic design, they've got a new motor, and suddenly they're $1,000 lens for a 1.8. That's ridiculous. And it's this long of a lens. The Noct, the 0.95, that lens, this behemoth of a lens is huge. It's a monster. You look at the same lens on like the Leica M, those lenses, they have these tiny little lenses because the flange distance is so short. They don't have to stick this lens out there so far and get so much glass on it in order for it to resolve that image. So you can shrink the lens and get it closer to the camera, make a much smaller package. That lens has got to be small, it's got to be streamlined, you've got to come out with some pancakes, for goodness sake. Like, does that make sense? So Nikon, stop messing with me. Make the small lenses with the tiny glass, unless your glass just can't resolve that. This is everything wrong with the Nikon Z6, everything wrong with the Z line. That's all I'm gonna say. So, Nikon, if you're listening, fix the firmware. Please give me some small lenses, at least a cheap, tiny 50mm. That's all I want. See you later, friends.